The woman signed the divorce agreement and took off her wedding ring. She prepared to leave the place where she had lived for 3 years. Before leaving, she called a courier. She had the courier deliver her husband's forged letter of understanding from 3 years ago to him. Then, she resolutely left the city that had caused her pain. When the man learned that his wife had left, he immediately panicked. It turned out that 3 years ago, on the day before the woman's wedding, the man's first love deliberately drove a car and killed the woman's mother. Not only did her fiancé fail to stand by her side, but he even produced a marriage certificate with the first love. In order to bring the first love, this murderer, to justice, she made the first love pay for her mother's death by rioting at the wedding. But due to her lack of power, it turned into a laughingstock for everyone. In her moment of despair, the man came to her aid and publicly proposed to her, and promised that he would definitely send the first love to prison. In that instant, the woman felt as if she finally had support. Having successively experienced her mother's death and her fiancé's betrayal, she was already exhausted, so it was only natural for her to entrust everything to the man. Not long after, the man returned with a notice stating that the first love had been sentenced to 3 years in prison. The woman completely believed her husband. Unexpectedly, 3 years later, she overheard a conversation between her husband and a lawyer. In fact, the man's purpose in marrying the woman was to write a letter of understanding for the first love in her family's name, so that his first love could evade legal punishment. When she learned that, over the past 3 years, the first love had not served time in prison but had been living abroad, the woman was instantly furious. She could never have imagined that all of this had been orchestrated by her most beloved husband, and that her husband, while displaying humble love in front of her, had done so with the purpose of ensuring that his first love could live happily. The woman secretly vowed that she would make both the first love and her husband pay the price. So, without making a sound, she returned home. After the husband returned home, he continued to care for her as usual, even taking off his coat and draping it over her, and with a look of tender concern said to his wife, "Next time, don't wait for me for too long, because it would break my heart." The husband's voice when speaking to her remained as gentle as ever, but in the wife's eyes, it sounded extremely hypocritical. When her husband went to take a shower, she opened his computer for the first time, and was shocked to discover that the computer's password was the first love's birthday. The desktop background displayed the place where the first love was currently living. His social media accounts followed only his first love, and everything that the first love wore, whether clothes or jewelry, was entirely products endorsed by her husband's company. Even the hotel where she had stayed for 3 years was owned by one of her husband's overseas subsidiaries. The remittance record showed that her husband transferred $1 million to the first love every month, for 3 years without interruption, and his username was the character equal. She had always wondered why her husband would use that character as his online name. At that moment, the answer suddenly came to the woman in an instant. No wonder in these 3 years, her husband had never taken a photo with her. At home, aside from the only wedding photo, she could not find a single other photo of them together. It turned out that her husband didn't dislike taking photos, but rather, he only took photos with people he liked. At the moment she put down the computer, the woman knew it was time to leave this marriage woven solely with lies, so she immediately bought a plane ticket to go abroad in 3 days.